and welcome back to another episode of Braid School. We are currently in our Becoming a Better Braider series where we answer your questions directly and continue to expand on the basic braiding skills we've already learned. If you're new to class and need to catch up, the Braid School Basics playlist will be listed in the cards above. Before we get started, here is the winner to last week's pop quiz. They got the answer spot on. And stay tuned to the end of today's video for this week's pop quiz and a chance to be featured in next week's video. Whether you're an aspiring braider or a client looking for a braider, I'm here to answer all of your questions. You can drop them in the comment section below, or if you would like to remain anonymous, you can leave me a message at the link provided in the description box below. I'm here to answer all of your questions, so let's get into this week's lesson. This viewer wants to know, "Hi Vandy, I'm new here. Please, I want to know, how do you do a blunt cut after making a knotless box braid? Like, how do you create a blunt tie when you're done braiding?" Let's get into it. Okay, so normally when we braid down braids, the length of them, we taper them so that it's nice and thin at the ends. In my opinion, it's much more easier to maneuver the hair and move it around when it's in a tapered or feathered manner. But for demonstration purposes today, we're going to talk about blunt ends or burnt ends. First thing to note is whenever you are capping off someone's ends, you want to make sure you go at least an inch past their natural hair length. That way when they go to cut the braids off or take them out, they know exactly where to cut without cutting their natural hair. So the first method I'll show you is pretty simple, and that's just simply adding a rubber band to the end of the braid. And you'll want to get this as tight as possible without stretching it too much. What tends to happen with elastics or rubber bands though is that whenever they come into contact with oils, moisture, heat, they tend to expand and contract, and a lot of times it will loosen up the elasticity and the rubber bands will pop. So when in doubt, double them up, use 2 rubber bands, or what I like to do before I even start rubber banding is I will use my heat sealing method and I will seal the braid. By sealing the braid, that ensures that even if the rubber band were to come loose, this braid isn't going to come loose on the client. And if you caught our last braid school video, pop quiz, then you know that you need a pencil flat iron that goes up to at least 450 degrees in order for synthetic hair to be sealed like this. I'm still gonna rubber band it. And now I am free to cut this braid off. And that's how you get a blunt end on the braid. That's if you want it loose. This method is really great for if you're gonna do jewelry. So all you have to do is just plop your little jewelry piece on, and now you have a beautiful bejeweled blunt braid, like so. Now let's say you have a regular braid or a tapered braid that you want to just cut off, like completely cut off bluntly, kind of like the old school Moesha braids. And if you don't have a flat iron, you can use a lighter. And I'm just going to tell you, you might end up burning yourself using a lighter. It's a little bit more rough on your skin and your hands. So if you can get your hands on a flat iron that goes up to at least 450 degrees, again, this only works with synthetic braiding hair. It does not work with human hair. It does not work with your natural hair. Only synthetic braiding hair. So that's why it's important that you go at least an inch past the natural hair length to make sure that you're not permanently damaging their hair. So yeah, I got my flat iron up to 450. Now I'm just going to press, and then I'm going to start pulling, tugging until it comes off. Then I'm going to roll it in my fingers to make sure it's sealed together. And now those ends are completely blunt. Now if you're doing like a braided bob and you're not sure how the cut is going to look, start lower and then work your way up, because once you cut them too high, then it's hard to go back. So just a little bit at a time. It can be time consuming, but the end result is chef's kiss. In our step-by-step C-part video, this viewer wanted to know, do you have a video on how to do this parting method with a middle part? Great question. So let's get into it. So in this video here, we did a step-by-step on how to do C-parting, a lot like how our model has here. It looks like C's or scallops. It's more of a natural parting style. Well, somebody had asked the question, how do you do this parting style with a middle part or a side part? And chances are you are probably overthinking it. For example, in this case, our client here kind of already has a middle part. Not exactly perfect, but sometimes clients will want their middle part a little bit over, like right where the eyebrow hits, which is just fine. It's their preference. Or sometimes they want a side part that is very defined on this side, but they still want the C-parting look, because when you pull the hair up, you're gonna have that C-parting style when you pull it up. So chances are you're probably overthinking it. All you need to do is just carve out the part first. Then what you're going to do is you're going to work around the part. So what I like to do is, once I've determined what the part is, I split everything into quadrants, especially for a middle part here. So I'm going to split this into a quadrant up here, split this into a quadrant up here, 2 quadrants in the back. And then the premise of C-parting is you start from the outside and work your way to the middle. Outside, work your way to the middle. So as I'm moving up, I'm making sure to keep that middle part defined. Now, if you don't want a straight middle part and you want more of a natural looking middle part, you're basically going to carve out kind of like a leave out, if you will. Go ahead and pre-part where you want your parts to go, and then make sure that you work around that leave out part that you've already sketched out. So in this case, we're gonna do a straight part here. I've already started with these on the outside. Now when I get to my middle part up here, and it's okay if you go a little bit smaller at the top because you want the braids to be smaller at the top, I'm gonna start carving out this way. And as long as each braid is still falling in between the braids below it, you're still gonna get that C-part effect when you pull it up, like so. So you see what I did here? I just carved out these 2 to fit below these 3 here. Carved out this one, it's gonna lay like this. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So yeah, at the end of the day, you just need to have a plan before you even get started, and it won't be as difficult as you think it is. Now for this week's pop quiz. This one is kind of easy. Last week's video, I showed you guys how to feed in hair for both underhanded and overhanded braiders. What color was the braiding cord that I used to demonstrate this for you? Drop your answers in the comments below, and the first 3 correct answers will be featured in next week's video. All right, so that concludes this week's video. As always, if you learned something, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and make sure you tell a friend. You can drop your questions in the comments below, or you can send them to me anonymously at the link provided in the description box. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your way out, and don't forget to bring your notes for next week's class. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.